Hello guys and welcome to the Sellerboard Show. My name is Vladi Gordon. Today I have Brent Zahradnik with me from AMZPathfinder.com. Brent is a PPC expert and we talked about, PPC news. So we discussed what changed, what's new in PPC, what was new in 2019, things like targeting by product or by category. This is very exciting. Dynamic bidding and bid modification. This is something that Amazon introduced this year as well, and things like search term reports for sponsored brands and other things. There was kind of a deep dive into all those new technologies. So if you're not using this stuff, then this should be very valuable for you. And then we discussed 2020, what you should do and what's coming next year and how to stay prepared. So there are going to be some new PPC or in general advertising types in 2020, like video ads, for example. We talked about store pages and stores and how they are getting more and more important for your advertising strategy. So this is going to be a lot of content, very intense, and I hope that you'll find it valuable. Please press the like button if you like this video. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel. We're interviewing industry experts regularly, and we're doing our best to bring as much content as possible to you in this show. Before we start, let me mention Sellerboard. If you're not a Sellerboard customer yet, or if you haven't tried it, then go ahead and check out our software. Sellerboard.com is the website. The link is in the description. Our vision is to be the world's most accurate profit analytics tool for Amazon sellers, and that at a very competitive price, starting at $90 a month. We have a lot of other tools in the package as well, like an inventory manager, like a reimbursement assistant, which finds lost and damaged items where Amazon owes you money, a PPC optimization module, and a lot of other tools. So make sure you check out our free trial. And now let's start the show. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the next episode of the Sellerboard Show. My name is Vladi Gordon, and today I've got Brent Zahradnik from AMZPathfinder with me. Hi, Brent.
Hey there.
Thanks for joining us. How are you?
Absolutely. I'm doing good. It's a cold day here, relatively speaking, in Montpellier. I live here in southern France, and it's been mostly warm this winter, but today it is windy and gray. So I'm happy to be inside recording a podcast instead.
Oh, wow. So what is cold for Montpellier?
That's a good question. Yeah. Not cold from, where some of your audience is from, I'm sure. But cold here would be like 7 or 8 degrees Celsius.
Oh, okay. That's
yeah.
That's okay. I'm in Germany. We also have like 7, 8, maybe a little bit less. Yeah. All right. Okay. So Brent, why don't you introduce yourself to our audience? What are you doing, and how did you end up in this Amazon universe?
Yeah, sure thing. So I'm originally from Eastern Pennsylvania, from the United States, as you can probably tell. I got into the Amazon space in general in, I would say, mid/early 2015. I had a friend who was selling on the platform on FBA because he heard about it through some podcast. And I, at the time, was working in like paid advertising. So he asked me, do you know anything about the ads on Amazon? And I said, Amazon has ads? I have no idea. So I helped him set up some basic campaigns. And this is when there was only broad match keywords and there was like very few features. And sure enough, they started to do very well because the cost per click back then was quite low and he was not in a competitive category. So I thought, well, there's something to this. This is interesting. And then later that year, after trying other like Amazon related business models, like I tried to help sellers get started on the platform, I just decided, you know what, my 80/20 here is going to be managing ads and helping people with ads. And I've grown AMZPathfinder, my company, ever since then. So now we work with North American and EU businesses, and we've got a team all spread out across North America, Europe, and a couple people in Asia. So we're all over the place.
So what is it exactly that you're doing? Basically, you're managing ads and you're setting them up and optimizing. Is that?
Yeah, that's correct. So anything advertising related that's like within the Amazon sphere. So that's of course like Seller Central, but also Advertising Console. You know, it used to
Mm-hmm.
be called AMS.
Mm-hmm.
We earlier this year got access to the DSP platform, and we've been doing that with, like, I would say, mediocre success. It hasn't been like a smash hit. We're still learning, but that's like a cool new platform, and Amazon obviously sees a lot of future and investment in that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we do. We have some like ancillary services too, like we'll help with store pages now for
Mm-hmm.
clients. But that's really just in an effort to make the effect of the advertising stronger. You know, we're trying to just enhance our core offer essentially by doing that.
Okay, very cool. So guys, we'll put the link in the description. I think it's AMZPathfinder.com.
That's right.
So
Or .eu. You can go to .eu as well. They both work.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right. So look, we wanted to talk about advertising in 2020. As of now, we're in December 2019, right?
Yeah.
And guys would like to talk about what's due and what's coming, and basically maybe things that you should be prepared for, or maybe some mistakes. So tell me basically, maybe on the high level first. What's going on in the Amazon advertising world? Like when I was selling, there was PPC, and I believe there was no HSA yet.
Right.
So okay, maybe most of our listeners are active sellers now, so we don't have to start like what changed since 3 years. But what's new, like on what's going on in the Amazon advertising universe?
Sure. So the biggest changes we've seen this year would probably be the shift to other targeting methods. So we can do what's called product attribute targeting. So you can target by category and ASIN for sponsored products. Everyone's probably pretty familiar with that at this point. What else is interesting is the bid modification feature that came out in, I want to say January of this year, and people aren't using that very often. That's kind of hard to understand. We could touch on that in this, but really what's happened in the past 3-4 months is pretty exciting, because Amazon has made a very concerted effort to bring up sponsored brands, aka headline search ads, what you just talked about, to the same level as sponsored product ads. So they're like at parity. We have a search term report now, we have placement data, we have ability to set negatives, and we have all these new targeting methods. Amazon's trying to figure out other ways for us as sellers to broadcast our message, but also, to spend money on their advertising platform, which is, obviously something they're very interested in. So I would say the second half of this year has been like the year of sponsored brands. So that's something that's been really exciting to have going into Q4 for us as an agency, because we have all these new toys to play with essentially. So that's one thing that we see a lot of accounts we do audits for and work with, like, not harnessing is like some of these new features for sponsored brands, which in some cases have great ROI at this point, because very few people are using them correctly or using them at all.
Yeah. Okay. Look, very cool. Let's start maybe with the targeting by product and category. You said that most of our listeners probably know it, but for somebody who doesn't or hasn't used this before, so what's that? Like, what's targeting by product?
Sure. So a while back, Amazon changed their one report from being called a keyword report to a targeting report. And the distinction there is, keywords are obviously search queries that people put in, like blue disposable plate, whatever. But what we have now is the ability to target by ASIN. So you can say in your campaigns, I want to instead target this ASIN. And effectively what that does is it follows that ASIN around on Amazon. So you're targeting a competitor's blue disposable plate, and you put their ASIN in there. And then your ad will show up on their product page. It'll show up in the search results where theirs does. It'll show up on the checkout, whatever it is. So it's a different way to target. So you're not really going by someone's actual search intent. You're just going by the product that's related to it. That's the first one. That's probably the most effective one, actually. The second would be categories. So you're targeting the top level category, like plastic plates in general. And then you can refine that by how many stars they have, what the prices are, what the brands are, etc. We use both those in like heavy rotation these days.
Wow. Okay, let's talk about this for a minute. So targeting by product, like I would imagine that how's the conversion actually? Like,
Well, it depends what the product you're targeting is, how it relates to your own product. So one way to think about this, and one way that we break it out sometimes, is by like likelihood of conversion or like offer. So maybe their product is a objectively better offer than yours. Like it has more stars, it has a lower price, it's like top seller or something.
yeah.
So the bid you set for that and how aggressive you are about chasing that product would be less aggressive than a product that is, objectively worse than yours. Like maybe it has, poor reviews or is more expensive or doesn't have as much sales traction. So you can expect to see different conversions in ACoS based on that like strata, and there's products that fall anywhere between there. The trade-off is with those ones with the higher traffic and the higher sales, you're going to get more eyeballs because more people are on those listings in the first place. So it's a kind of a trade-off, and you have to test and see what works.
So when would you like do this instead of targeting by keyword?
Good question. So we have one client, I'm not going to say the name obviously, but who has a lineup of products that's quite well known in their space, and they have a ton of branded traffic. So at Pathfinder, at least, we break out branded traffic and spend and sales into a different category that's separate from like generic terms or competitor terms and everything. So because of all this like branded traffic, it creates a lot of noise, and we have to like separate that out. We use a lot of ASIN targeting there because they have a lot of competitors that offer similar products that are just simply not as good or not as well known. And we can make a lot of money for them by advertising on these ASINs, on these competitor products. But the actual keyword, I would say like the keyword depth, this is maybe a bit more of an advanced concept, but like the total set of keywords that people use to search for and buy their products is actually not that deep. It's like fairly shallow. So because of that, we have to use other targeting methods. And when this was made available, it was a pretty big deal for us because it allowed us to open up a whole new avenue of targeting for this client that we previously didn't have available. So I would say if your keyword depth is like relatively shallow, that could be a good reason to do this.
To try. Okay, I see. All right. And how about targeting by categories? So you said basically you can specify a category. Well, how do you even specify it? Is it an Amazon category, or like is it a keyword that you type in, like headphones?
Yeah, it's like categories and subcategories. So I mean, I don't know, like home and kitchen maybe is plates, but then you want to get more specific, right? You want to go down to like disposable plates. That would be the category you want to stick to. And so what you're doing there is specifying a category, and then it's showing your product to a bunch of different ASINs in that category. And when you look at the search term report, or a third-party piece of software to see what results you have, it'll show you ASINs just like it does for the product targeting. But the difference here is that it's just shotgunning them out there. It's almost like an auto campaign, but for a specific category. So it's a bit more refined. And this way you discover ASINs and get sales you never would have anticipated. So that's helpful, useful.
So like what, if we're talking like about a standard private label product, right? Let's say maybe it's not like an obvious one, but a little bit modified. So all the rules that or the principles that apply to private label are applied, but it's like a brand which is not so strong, right? What would you like? What portion of budget would you allocate to classical PPC and to like targeting by product and by category?
That's a really good question. Yeah, because it depends about your brand positioning. I would say if you are maybe on the spectrum where you're not super well known, maybe you have some branded revenue and you have some awareness, and the product page is strong. Let's assume that the product page is what we call retail ready, right? It's strong. It's a strong page. It's going to get conversions with the right people. I would probably focus more on keyword searches than I would for ASINs, but there may be some products that are, I would say equal or less good competitors that might be suitable for that. But if you're going to try to run up against like the big boys in the space, whoever they may be, and set high bids, you're probably going to lose your shirt and not have a good time there.
Okay.
So I would suggest, not doing that. Yeah, it's probably better to find the keywords that are going to help you get consistent sales. Because what you essentially want to do is link your ASIN with particular keywords and demonstrate to Amazon over time that like these two things are related. You're going to get a better relevancy score like over time by doing that. Yeah. And help with ranking, that's a whole nother discussion, but.
So if we like advertise on a competitor product, so suppose I'm selling like jump ropes, this is our standard example, and I find a jump rope which is way worse than mine. Like mine has 5 stars, and I find one that has only 3 stars, and it's just a lousy jump rope. So I advertise by ASIN, and I hope that somebody who like looks at this lousy jump rope will just see mine and buy mine because I have a better price, better product, and so on. So does this have any impact on the organic search results? Like does it attribute to any of the keywords or no? Like
that's a good question, right? So let's assume that they come in on some keyword. But you're advertising on an ASIN, to be clear. You're not advertising on a keyword. So they come in on, fitness jump rope or something, and then they see your ad. Maybe let's say you have used bidding by placement, and you've bid it up by 30% or something, the product page. So you're showing up on the product page prominently placed, and they see that. And then they go to you and they add to cart or they buy, both of which are like strong signals that are sent to Amazon to help with organic ranking. It's my understanding that if you are able to like effectively steal a sale from a competitor or a similar product based on like a keyword search or some kind of buying behavior, that counts as like a strong vote in your favor for rank on that keyword. So that's my understanding of it. Obviously Amazon places that stuff pretty close to the vest. And what we've learned this year is what really matters for organic rank when it comes to PPC is more the metrics. It used to be on Amazon that you could push hundreds of dollars a day into one keyword and get tons of sales, even if the ACoS was crap and the click-through rate was like, okay. But now what Amazon cares more about is conversion rate, click-through rate, relevancy link. These are the things they're more concerned with when it comes to organic rank. So that seems to be the direction things are heading. So you can't just like push it anymore. That doesn't work.
Cool. All right. So you mentioned bid modification, right? Or dynamic bidding, or so what's that?
Yeah, this is a complex one. So like I mentioned at the top of the video, we had this feature introduced early this year, which is something that's not new to paid advertising. Like if you've used Google Ads, formerly called AdWords or Bing or many other bidding softwares out there that plug into those ecosystems, you're probably familiar with this concept. So what it allows you to do is take a variable and then adjust by a percentage based on that input. So it's like, I want to bid up by 50% when we're going to show up on top of search in Amazon's case, or the other one they have is product page. The third placement they list out in their data is rest of search, but you can't set a modification by that. You can just, you can't do anything by it. It's just there. So the idea with Amazon was, let's give everyone visibility into these ad placements, and then let's give them the ability to bid a percentage increase so they can be seen for them. What's weird about Amazon's implementation is you can't do a percentage decrease. Usually with these, you can do a decrease, and that allows you to, in the same campaign, make like a balanced approach, I guess, because we can only see this data at the campaign level. So if you have like multiple keywords that all have, of course, different performance metrics inside of a campaign, typically you'd be able to say, all right, let's bid this down for rest of search, or for product page, and bid it up for top of search. But you can't do that. So with Amazon, you either have to split it out in a new campaign, or you have to use your base bid as rest of search and adjust from there. So this is a bit complicated, but essentially the idea is to boost your exposure for different placements. But Amazon's implemented it a bit strangely where you can't bid down. So you have to take kind of like workarounds to make the data as clearly segmented as possible. So
am I right? Like a couple of years ago, there was only top of search, right?
Amazon gave us a report a while ago that was I think it was only 2 placements. It was like top of search and then other, or like rest of search, which is not really helpful, because if you go on Google Ads, you can see like position 2, position 3, position
Yeah.
3, position 4, like it, it goes through.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe we'll have that one day with Amazon, I hope, because, on Google, you can even set a bid to try to end up at a certain position. Like if you want to say, I always want to be position 3, let's like aim for that. But Amazon's not that complex yet.
Okay, but like, why would anybody bid more for a better placement? I guess the only reason can be like get a better conversion.
Yeah, so typically the click-through rate and the conversion rate for top of search, generally speaking, are much, much, much higher than product pages and rest of search. Usually product pages have the most impressions, but the lowest click-through rate. And rest of search is somewhere in the middle. It's hard to do without like a graphic illustrator, but rest of search is like ads that appear halfway down the page and at the bottom of the page in search. And the ones on the product pages are, well, self-explanatory. But the only drawback is like, okay, everybody wants high conversion rate and high click-through rate, right? Everybody wants that, but it's also the most expensive. So the question is, does this extra cost make up for it in your improved conversion rate and click-through rate? And that's going to depend on a product to product and keyword to keyword basis. That's not something you can answer universally like, yes, it is. Because for some products, it won't make sense. And that's where you always need to be careful to, consider relevancy and alignment for keywords as best as possible with products. Those things need all line up. 1, 2, 3. Relevance, alignment, product, as little confusion as possible. We want to get the shopper to the product and consider, make them consider buying, I guess.
So if we're starting a campaign for a private label product, how would I know, like, I kind of know what to bid on normal ads normally without this dynamic bidding, right? So you just pick an amount and wait a couple of clicks and then you check your ACOS.
Right.
But this is like an extra variable. So how would I even go about it, and how do I know what to put in there?
Yeah, so you'd want to calculate what your conversion rate is for that placement, and then what the average cost per click has been thus far. And you should be able to, by using a couple simple formulas, I could actually like provide them for your audience or something, because I've made presentations about this before. But essentially, you can come up with a couple different like value-based bidding formulas to say like, this is our expected, and this is our average order per click, and then you can multiply that times your target ACOS, and you get like a bid. But then you have to calculate what percentage increase is going to be applied to this. So a good example would be, and this is something we do at my company, like we'll do single keyword, exact match, fixed bidding type campaigns, and then we apply a top of search modifier to them. So let's say that it's like $1, but then we have a top of search modifier by like 300%. We're willing to pay up to 300%, increase from that $1 for that particular campaign, because we've determined that, well, for this product with this keyword in our data, we've seen the conversion rate is this high. So we know we can tolerate this much of a cost per click, and we're willing to do that just because of the historical data we have. Now that campaign might take a few weeks to like warm up because it has to establish relevancy, and that keyword is being seen somewhere else most likely. So don't expect like immediate amazing results. But the long-term goal there is to have the majority of spend for that campaign going through top of search. And you should have improved metrics because of it. And hopefully you have a nice high click-through rate, crazy high conversion rate. And that's going to reflect positively on your product overall and allow you to isolate that spend in one campaign and control it.
So if you're using a tool which manages your bids to like shoot for a specific ACOS, should you turn off this dynamic bidding?
Yeah, I would suggest the majority of these tools that are have been created for this thing, like bid management, which is actually something on my list here I put up before we talked, because I'm a big believer in software in general for Amazon advertising. But those software tools are still, a lot of them are still in the early days. Like we're only on version 2.0 of the API for advertising, with parts of 3.0 coming out. And there's a lot of data that Amazon still does not make readily apparent to the software or advertisers or us as like sellers and agencies. So the best thing to do with this software that does the bid automation is keep it on down only. This is the algorithm that this software has pretty much been designed for over the last couple of years. If you put it on fixed, it doesn't work as well. If you put it on dynamic up down, which is the third setting, which I don't recommend generally speaking, it tends to have really like variable ACOS spikes, although it does work sometimes. That's not going to play well with the software. Furthermore, if you do like a bid modification on top of the automatic bid management, that's also throwing a huge variable in there. So there's no way that it can accurately gauge what changes it needs to make if that's happening. Yeah. So my suggestion would be those two things should be separate. Yeah.
And what's down only? This means that Amazon would reduce your bid to do what?
Yeah, so essentially, I would say probably 90% of campaigns that exist in clients we manage and accounts we audit are down only bidding, which means Amazon is taking into account a lot of other factors. I saw a really good presentation on this by Franz from Sellex just like 2 weeks ago in London, but he was talking about, the different bid types. And essentially, Amazon is taking into account a lot of things that aren't shown to us, but they know thanks to their huge database and data set. Amazon has over 20 years of people's buying history, and transactions and everything. So they know that, like, let's say, here's a good example. Like, imagine a 24-year-old guy and a 31-year-old woman, and she's just had a kid, and he's just finishing his last year of university. Those two people searching for the same query have very, very, very different like interests.
These two events are not connected, right?
Yes, exactly. exactly. No, they don't know each other.
Okay.
This is a hypothetical, theoretical situation.
All right.
No, but my point is, if one of them is searching for like blanket, okay, the person with the blanket, with the mom, maybe she's at the top of the funnel, right? She's starting the search and she's looking for a baby blanket. But this dude over here, he just wants a blanket that he can put on the couch so when his friends crash, he can like just throw it on so they're not cold. Like their two tastes for the same keyword are different. So if you're selling a baby blanket and Amazon knows about this new mom, maybe what's going to happen is your bid's going to be stable for her. But if it knows about, Joe over here and his like blanket search, it's going to say this guy not likely to buy a baby blanket. So this is what down only means. They're going to actually bid you down in some scenarios where they detect with their data that, it's the chances of conversion, click through,
Okay, I get it. It's not about the placement. It's really about like conversion that they expect from the guy who's searching.
I think it's called psychographic information. I could be wrong about that, but that's generally speaking what it is. And this goes back to another idea, which is this bid modification by placement. This is just the first thing that Amazon's done. In the future, Amazon may do bid modification by gender. So male, female, device. Are they on mobile? Are they on tablet? Time of day, location, interest categories, age, who knows? This is just the beginning. So
Oh, wow. Okay, look, very cool. What else have you got on your list for 2020? So I think we discussed now the recent changes, right?
Yeah. We just talked about a few of the recent changes. Like I said, 2019, the last couple months here have been like the year of sponsored brands, but things that are coming up for 2020 that are pretty important. I think 2020 is going to be the year of video. I've heard some rumblings about this from people at Amazon, other people I've talked to. So video ads, we already are using them for 3 or 4 of our clients. I was just looking in one of our accounts this morning because one of our team members set up some video ads and it spent a bunch of money already. Which means like in 2 days, which means that like obviously people are clicking on it. It's being seen. Amazon's promoting them, and the cost per click is relatively cheap now.
Hold on, tell me more about this. So I've never seen a video ad on Amazon. How does this work? I'm searching for a blanket.
I've actually never seen one either, except for on mobile. There's 3 different kinds that I'm aware of. There's one that's called video in search, and this comes from Amazon in a beta right now. We have a couple clients that have tried this. And this is specifically for Android and iOS apps. So like the actual like Amazon app, like on your phone, like when you go to Amazon.com and you're like, oh, sorry, not Amazon.com. You go to the Amazon app and you open that up and you search for green tea or matcha tea. I think that's one I did recently. And there's like 6 or 7 results down. There's an actual video that auto plays that's on mute. But if you tap it, you can listen to it. It's like a minute long. And it
Oh,
gave this
wow.
like beautiful visual story about this matcha tea that comes from this mountain in Japan and all this other stuff. So that's called video in search. What I'm talking about here is actually a video advertising method done through sponsored brands. So it's like video in sponsored brands, and it shows up in the different ad slots that sponsored brands has. And with that, you upload a video creative. I think it has to be like, 1920 by 1080. Amazon has like requirements for what it can use and what resolution it has to be and everything. And then, you advertise that based on keywords, I think. I haven't even looked deep into the campaign yet. But this is like a new thing just popping up in some US accounts. I'm not sure we can see this in EU accounts.
Oh,
but
wow.
Amazon's clearly interested in video. They want video to be a thing that people are, bidding against and advertising for and with on their platform in 2020.
So do you think they're gonna like compete with this video ads against normal ads, HSA ads, or is it like a different category where the bids are different?
That's a good question. The bids are probably all together with like video. You're probably competing against other people for video. Now, are the ad slots actually different? The placements? I don't know. That's a great question. We get very little information about that from Amazon. I'm actually going to write that down to ask next time I talk to Amazon because I don't know. There's so many unknowns with these.
Sure.
The best thing to do, in my opinion, is to get on there early and set conservative bids, try it out, because usually in the first couple months is when the bids are the cheapest and you can get in on the ground floor. If you have any kind of Amazon sales rep or account manager or anything, ask them about video. Ask them, what can I do to get video? What are the requirements? How do I get it enabled? Maybe they'll hit the on button in your account. You'll see the beta or something like that. Who knows? So
cool. Yeah. All right, so we need to stay tuned and be prepared. So
absolutely.
What else? Anything
well, for 2020 in general, like you said before we started, I was trying to think of what other things for 2020 sellers and businesses might try to do. And we've had a lot of new features come out in 2019 just recently. So that's all good, and that's good for the holiday. But for 2020, you want to get back to basics for the beginning. So the first thing would be audit your account structure. Just ensure that you have a solid account structure in place. Whatever your methodology for organizing keywords and match types and everything is, make sure that that's consistently applied across your account. And you're advertising all the products that you should be. Not all products are suitable for advertising. Some of them have low margins, poor conversion rates. They don't have the buy box all the time. Maybe the color is like not suitable for advertising. Like a thing we see a lot is a product will have like 5 or 6 colors, and maybe 2 of them are very low sellers. Focus on the ones that are top sellers. Don't worry about advertising the pink one. The couple people that want that will come to the listing and see it. Maybe you can use a couple of keywords for pink and a new ad group and send them to that. That's fine. But don't focus too much on that. So make sure you're advertising things that you should be, the structure. And the next thing would be auditing your negative keywords, actually. So ensure that in the new year, you're not using negative keywords to block keywords that you might want to now try. Maybe in July, you have a product that sells really well in the cold months, but in July, it was selling like crap. So, you or someone in your account set a negative keyword for it. And now, you want to go back and say, wait, we want to actually advertise against this again because it's January and it's cold, or it's December and it's cold. So make sure you're not, standing in your own way, like blocking yourself by putting these negatives here. That's one thing I would encourage everyone to look at. You can go through with use a bulk file, and you can see all the negative keywords in your account now. I believe that works. So that's a good way to check that.
Okay. So check negative keywords.
Check negatives. It's basic, but it helps. Yeah, we do that for all new accounts we work with, because who knows what negatives people have said in there in the past. Could be anything.
Yeah. Yeah, makes sense. All right. So have you got any other tips or anything else you're expecting next year?
Yeah, the other thing I'm expecting next year is store pages, or just stores. Amazon calls them different things, but I like store page because it kind of describes what it is. This is probably familiar to anyone who has Brand Registry 2.0, but this allows you to set up your own little like micro store inside of an Amazon account, right? So you go to Amazon.com/your brand name. If you're lucky, you
Mm-hmm.
can get that, which is really
Mm-hmm.
cool. So store pages, we see these as a great way to boost the conversion rate and drop the ACoS for your sponsored brand campaigns. And that's why we like them. And we are actually
Mm-hmm.
starting to now set them up with clients more directly. But just like video, I've heard other things from Amazon, like 2020 is going to be the year of a store page too. So they're really big on store pages. We've started to see them show up in organic search. In fact, just this morning, I got a message from someone in my team's Slack that showed a ad type. So sponsored brands, usually you can pick custom page or store page, but now they have a new ad type that just says store page. It's like a store page only ad type. And that's for mobile only. I haven't even tried it yet. I just saw it this morning.
I didn't get it. So, is it like your store, your shop basically, or your store? Is it showing up on the search results?
Yes, I have on desktop in the US, I have seen store pages show up, and not frequently, very, very, very rarely. But I look at this stuff like fairly often, so sometimes I'll see one pop up, and I'm like, that's like a link to a store page. It's not a product; it's a link to a store page.
Wow!
But what I'm saying is, the store page is going to be surfaced in different ways through advertising. Sponsored brands is just the way it is now, but I imagine it'll be linked to in videos, and it'll be put up on other pages. I think Amazon really wants people to do it. And what's so cool about store pages, it's free. It's pretty easy to do as long as you have a good graphic designer or design sensibilities. And you get some good data out of it too. You can see who's visiting it and what they're doing. It's some of the best analytics on Amazon, which is not saying much, but it's something.
So maybe I also didn't quite get it, but you mentioned like ads for the store. Ads with the type of the store page, right? So what did you mean by that?
This is totally new as of just this morning from me, at least. I mean, this is like I know it's not a breaking news podcast, but this is breaking news for me because I saw it just like an hour ago. But someone had shared a screenshot from Seller Central that had 3 different panels, and the first one was sponsored brands to a catalog, list of products like normal. The second one was mobile only, and it was store page. And then the third one was mobile only, and that was, some other ad type like sponsored display, which is like another ad type that, generally speaking, has fairly low impact on accounts for us at least. But this middle one was totally new, so I had never seen that before. And my point is moreover, just like rather than that specific ad type, Amazon's going to keep continuing to experiment and expand the ads that are probably going to store pages, and I think it's important to have one of those in place.
And like as of today, what can you, if you have a store page, right? Can you advertise it for specific keywords or like?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, so you can when you're making a sponsored brand campaign, you can set up. My recommendation for sponsored brands in general would be to use exact and maybe a few phrase match keywords. Keep the list small. Send that traffic right to your sub page. Don't send them to the home page. Send them to the sub page. So going back to this example of like the plastic disposable plate, the blue one, don't send them to the page where you have the forks and the knives and the cups and everything. Send them right to the plate. Don't just shortcut it for them. Say, you wanted the plate, here's the plate. Send them right to the sub page. And that's really effective because what you're doing is, there's no other competitors on there. It's just you.
Nice. Oh, very cool. Okay. So we've got video ads, we've got audit, and we've got the store pages, and this is very interesting and very new. So we've never talked about this on this show. So
good. Store pages are a big deal.
What else have you got? Anything else on your list?
Let me see. I don't know. We might be running a bit long already. I think we talked about bid by placement, video, store pages. That's about it. I think one other thing I'll say to people is. And this is like one of these mistakes that we see a lot when we do audits is people don't dive deep enough into their auto campaigns. They just set up an auto campaign. They just whatever. Turns out there's 4 different kinds of targeting inside of auto campaigns. You have loose match, close match, substitutes, and I don't know, whatever, something else, competitors. There's one other one. But you can change the individual bids for each one of those. And you can set negatives, at the ad group level if you break them out by ad groups. So you can get very, very fine-tuned with your auto campaigns. Unfortunately, you still can't set ASINs as a negative, although you can in ASIN and product category targeting, but you can't do that for auto. So that's unfortunate. But you can turn that targeting type off. So you can actually turn off the ASIN thing in general. But we see people like in companies, never dive into the details of those auto campaigns, which are a vital part of the ecosystem. They're usually used when you start, but they should be running even at a low level for the duration of that product's lifetime, unless they're performing really, really poorly. But they should still be active. So get granular with those is what I would say. Hey,
very cool, Brent. Look, I think it was a ton of content. Thanks so much. I have my last question. So if somebody wants to hire you, to run the ads. So what I understand now is it got very complicated, way more complicated than just PPC, and PPC itself is complicated, but now there are all these new things. So you're working for private label sellers mainly, is that right? Or
our clients are a mix these days. We have a couple of clients that are bigger established companies. Not to speak down to private label sellers, because that's like still a large part of our business too. And many of those are people who started as private label and now they have an office in New York, or now they have like a team distributed all around the world. So there's a lot of success stories there. And we've worked with some of those clients for years. But we have a couple like larger like companies too that have other sales channels besides Amazon too. That's obviously a good place to be if you can diversify. So that's kind of where we are right now. Yeah, we do both. I couldn't tell you the mix between them.
Okay, cool. And in terms of budget, like if somebody is listening to this show and wants to hire you, but maybe they think, okay, am I big enough? Like in terms of the advertising budget, what would you say? Like what kind of customers do you work with? Or maybe it's even not depending on the budget at all.
Yeah, it's not so much budget, although that is an important consideration, how much they're willing to spend or invest in the growth or stabilization of their sales. It's more like overall revenue, because we recently did an audit for a company that was, high six figures, like a substantial amount per month. And the one thing we always track is what we call blended ACoS. It comes by a couple different names, but it's basically like ad spend divided by overall revenue. So their blended ACoS was like a few percentage points. Essentially, they were spending almost nothing on a huge amount of overall revenue. So their spend was low. So if we asked them for a spend minimum, they wouldn't meet it. But their revenue was so big and they had almost no spend that their potential for spending was massive. So that is like more what we're looking for. Like, can we make a substantial impact? Can they spend a significant amount in order to deliver that impact for their own business? But mostly we look at like revenue. So do they have revenue to support, money coming in to support ad spend going out? And then how you keep all those things in balance, like with measuring blended ACoS month to month, week to week, ACoS, obviously, conversion rates, percentage of sales from advertising. Those are all important metrics to keep in mind for like the larger picture. But I would say revenue is the most important consideration. And at this point, we typically won't work with companies that have revenue too far below like 70 or 80,000 a month. That's usually like a minimum. I'm thinking of actually putting that up to 100,000 just because it seems to be the trend that a lot of the companies we talk to these days are, somewhere in the $250,000 to $500,000 revenue range per month.
Okay, cool. So guys, if you have an annual revenue of over 1 million, and if you're looking for an APVC or an advertisement specialist, then follow the link in the description, AMZPathfinder, and you can talk to Brent. If you're making less revenue, then just like this video, and we'll try to get Brent on this podcast again so that he shares as much as he can for free.
Sure. Yeah, I'm happy to do it, man. This has been a blast. We just gone through like 45 minutes, like no problem.
Cool. Thanks so much, and good luck with your business.
Thanks,
and,
for having me on.
Have a great day.
Appreciate it. All right, you too, man. Bye.
See you. Bye. Thanks for watching this episode, guys. I hope you liked it. If so, then don't forget to press the like button, and we'd like to know what you think. So go ahead and comment below. If you have any questions to us or to Brent, then post your comment below. Subscribe to our channel. and we'll see each other in a couple of weeks. Bye-bye.